You think you know how you experience the world. You've been told since kindergarten that you have 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. It's the standard model. It's simple. It's intuitive. It's what Aristotle wrote down 2,000 years ago. And for some reason, we just decided to stop asking questions. But here is the problem. That list isn't just incomplete. It is dangerously misleading. It is a lie that simplifies your biology to the point of absurdity. If you actually only had those 5 senses, you would be dead in less than 5 minutes. You wouldn't be able to walk. You wouldn't be able to stand. You wouldn't even know when you were suffocating. The reality of your body is far more complex and far more disturbing than a simple checklist of 5 inputs. You are not a machine with 5 buttons. You are a biological sensor array processing data streams that you don't even have names for. And when you realize what you are actually sensing, when you peel back the simplified label of 5 senses, you start to see that your entire perception of reality is a construction, a simulation, and the senses you rely on are hiding 99% of the truth from you. Let me prove it to you. Right now, put your phone down for a second. Close your eyes. Seriously, close them. Now take your right index finger and touch the tip of your nose. You did it, didn't you? You didn't miss. You didn't poke your eye. You navigated your hand through 3-dimensional space, blinded, and hit a target on your own face with millimeter precision. How? You didn't use sight. Your eyes were closed. You didn't use hearing. Your nose doesn't make a sound. You didn't use smell, taste, or touch, at least not until the moment of contact. So how did your brain know exactly where your hand was and exactly where your nose was in relation to it? You just used a sense that isn't on the list. It's called proprioception. It is the sensing of the relative position of your own body parts and the effort being employed in movement. Your muscles and joints are packed with biological sensors, spindles and Golgi tendon organs that are constantly firing signals to your brain, mapping your physical geometry in real time. Without this sense, you would be a rag doll. You would have to watch your feet to walk. You would have to watch your hands to pick up a cup. If you lost this sense, and people have, you would feel like you were floating disembodied in space, completely untethered from your own physical form. Aristotle missed that one, and he missed a lot more. Stand up. Just stand there. You think you're motionless, but you're not. You are constantly making micro adjustments, tiny muscular contractions to counter the pull of gravity. How do you know which way is down? How do you know you're upright? Sight? No. You can balance in the dark. This is equilibrioception. It's your vestibular system. Deep inside your inner ear, there are tiny fluid-filled canals and chambers lined with hair cells. As you move, the fluid sloshes, bending the hairs, sending data to your brain about rotation, acceleration, and gravity. It is a biological accelerometer and gyroscope more sophisticated than anything in your smartphone. When you get dizzy, it's not your eyes failing. It's this fluid continuing to spin when you've stopped, telling your brain you're moving when you aren't. It's a sensory hallucination, a glitch in a sense you barely acknowledge exists until it breaks. But let's go deeper. Let's look at the senses you use to survive. Hold an ice cube. What do you feel? You say cold. You think that falls under touch. Wrong. Touch is mechanoreception, the detection of pressure and texture. Cold is thermoception. They are completely different biological pathways. You have specific receptors for heat and specific receptors for cold. They are not the same as the receptors that tell you if something is rough or smooth. You can lose your sense of touch, numbness, and still feel the burn of a hot stove. Why? Because they are different senses. And speaking of the stove, what is pain? Is it touch? No. It's nociception. There are people born with a genetic defect who cannot feel pain. They have a perfect sense of touch. They can feel the texture of a velvet blanket, but if they break a bone or burn their hand, they feel nothing. Pain is not just intense touch. It is a specific, dedicated sensory alarm system designed to detect tissue damage. It is a separate channel of reality that your brain monitors constantly. So we're already up to 9 senses: proprioception, equilibrioception, thermoception, nociception, but we haven't even touched the most terrifying one yet, the one that monitors the inside of the machine, interoception. How do you know you're hungry? How do you know your heart is racing? How do you know you need to use the bathroom? You don't see, hear, or touch these things. You sense them internally. Your body is riddled with sensors monitoring blood pressure, blood sugar, stomach distension. Here is the most critical example: suffocation. You think you sense a lack of oxygen. You don't. The human body has no sensors for low oxygen. If I put you in a room filled with pure nitrogen, you would breathe normally. You would feel fine. You would be exhaling carbon dioxide so your lungs would empty, but you wouldn't be taking in oxygen. You would simply get tired, pass out, and die. You would feel no panic, no suffocation. The feeling of suffocation, the panic, the burning in your lungs, that is not a lack of oxygen. That is your body sensing an excess of carbon dioxide. You have chemoreceptors in your brainstem specifically tuned to the pH levels of your blood. When CO2 builds up, your blood becomes acidic. That acidity triggers the alarm. That is a sense. A chemical sense that keeps you alive every minute of every day, and you didn't even know it worked that way. You thought you were sensing air. You were sensing blood acidity. Do you see the pattern yet? The 5 senses model is a kindergarten lie. It frames you as a passive observer looking out at the world through 5 clear windows. But the truth is, you are a biological fortress. You are constantly running diagnostics on internal pressure, external gravity, chemical composition, heat shielding, and structural integrity. But here is where things get really disturbing, because the biology is just the surface. What I really want to talk about is the physics. I want to talk about what these senses are actually detecting. And when you look at that, when you look at the physics of what your eyes and ears are actually doing, you realize that even with 20 or 30 senses, you are practically blind. You are locked in a dark, silent box, constructing a Technicolor movie out of almost no data. You think you see the world, you don't. You see a hallucination that your brain finds useful. Let's talk about sight. You think your eyes are cameras. You think they capture an image of reality and send it to your brain. That is not what is happening, not even close. Your eyes are photon detectors, that's it. They detect a tiny, pathetic sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. We call it visible light, but there is nothing special about this light. It's just electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength between 400 and 700 nanometers. Radio waves are passing through your body right now. You can't see them. Wi-Fi signals are bouncing off the walls. You can't see them. Radiation from your phone, heat signatures from the person next to you, ultraviolet rays from the sun. It is all there. The universe is screaming with energy, flooding every inch of space with data. And you are blind to 99% of it. If you could see the full spectrum, the night sky wouldn't be dark. It would be blazing with the afterglow of the Big Bang. If you could see magnetic fields, you would see the Earth protected by a massive shimmering shield. If you could see Wi-Fi, your house would look like a chaotic web of pulsing lasers. But you don't see any of that. Evolution didn't design you to see the truth. It designed you to see what keeps you alive. It gave you a narrow slit of reality, just enough to find food, avoid predators, and not walk off a cliff. And color doesn't exist. Look at a red apple. You say the apple is red, but the redness is not in the apple. The apple is absorbing every wavelength of light except for red. It reflects the red wavelength back at your eye. Your eye catches those photons. Your brain processes that signal and assigns it the label red. If you shine a blue light on that same apple, it looks black. Why? Because there is no red light to reflect. The apple hasn't changed. The physics hasn't changed. But your perception has collapsed. Color is not a property of objects. It is a psychophysical sensation created entirely inside your head. It is a user interface for navigating wavelengths. Think about that. The world outside your head has no color. It has wavelengths, frequencies, energy. But red and green and blue, those are just the paint your brain uses to color code the data. You are painting reality, not seeing it. Now let's talk about hearing. You think you hear sound? No, sound doesn't exist either. Clap your hands. What happened? You compressed air molecules. A pressure wave traveled through the air, hitting your eardrum, making it vibrate. That vibration was transferred to 3 tiny bones, then to a fluid-filled cochlea, where hair cells turned mechanical motion into electrical signals. The universe is silent, truly silent. There is no sound out there. There are only pressure waves moving through matter. Your brain takes those electrical signals and invents the experience of sound. It creates the sensation of a clap or a voice or music. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? The answer is no. It makes a pressure wave. It makes a vibration. But without an ear and a brain to interpret it, there is no sound. Sound is the map, not the territory. So you can't trust your eyes, you can't trust your ears, but surely you can trust touch. Surely touch is real. If I hit the table, I feel it. It's solid. It's there. Wrong again. This is the most disturbing part of all. You have never touched anything in your entire life. Not once. Not ever. When you press your hand against a table, what are you feeling? You think you're feeling the physical atoms of your hand hitting the physical atoms of the table. But that's impossible. Atoms are mostly empty space. If atoms were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a marble on the 50-yard line, and the electrons would be tiny gnats buzzing in the stands. The rest is empty. So why doesn't your hand pass through the table? Electromagnetism. The electrons in the atoms of your hand are negatively charged. The electrons in the atoms of the table are negatively charged. Like charges repel. As your hand gets closer to the table, incredibly close, nanometers away, the electrostatic repulsion between the electron clouds becomes enormous. The force pushes back. What you feel as touch, the The sensation of solidity, of pressure, is actually the electromagnetic force repelling your hand. You are hovering on a cushion of force fields. You are never actually making contact. The atoms never touch. If they did, nuclear fusion would occur and you would explode. So when you hug someone, you aren't touching them. You are feeling the repulsion of their electron fields against yours. When you sit on a chair, you are floating a tiny distance above it, suspended by electromagnetism. Touch is a lie. It is your brain's way of interpreting electromagnetic repulsion. So where does that leave us? Sight is a narrow slice of radiation. Sound is a translation of pressure waves. Touch is a misinterpretation of force fields. Taste and smell are just chemical detection. Molecules binding to receptors, locking in like keys, sending an electrical yes or no to the brain. You are not sensing reality. You are sensing a user-friendly dashboard. Imagine you're flying a plane. You have an altimeter, a speedometer, a fuel gauge. The altimeter says 10,000 feet. You trust it. But the gauge isn't the sky. The gauge is a needle on a dial. It's a representation. Your senses are the gauges. They are not the sky. They are giving you the data you need to fly the plane, to survive, to reproduce, to eat. But they are not showing you the air outside. And here is the terrifying question. If our senses are just a dashboard, what is happening outside the cockpit? What is reality really like? We know it's there. Mathematics tells us. Physics tells us. We know about dark matter. We know about quantum fields. We know about dimensions curled up at the Planck scale. We know that time is relative and space is curved, but we can't sense any of that. We have no quantum field sensor. We have no curved space-time sensor. We are trying to understand the universe with tools built for hunting gazelles on the savannah. This is why physics is so hard. It's not because the math is hard. It's because the concepts violate our sensory intuition. Our intuition tells us the world is flat. Our intuition tells us time flows at the same rate for everyone. Our intuition tells us solid objects are solid. Physics tells us all of those intuitions are wrong. So when you learn physics, you are learning to ignore your senses. You are learning to trust the math over the dashboard. You are learning to realize that the red apple isn't red, the table isn't solid, and the silence isn't empty. But wait, it gets worse. We've talked about the senses you have. We've talked about the senses you don't have. But what about the processing? What about the brain itself? Because even if your senses were perfect, even if you could see every photon and hear every vibration, your brain would still lie to you. Your brain is not a passive receiver. It is an active constructor. It predicts reality before it perceives it. There is a blind spot in your vision right now where your optic nerve connects to your retina. There are no photoreceptors. You have a hole in your vision. But close one eye and look around. Do you see a black hole? No. You see a complete image. Why? Because your brain fills it in. It guesses what should be there based on the surrounding pattern and just pastes it over the hole. Photoshop in real time. Your brain is fabricating a piece of reality to make the picture look complete, and it does this with everything. Have you ever misheard song lyrics? You swear the singer said one thing, but then you read the lyrics and realized it was something else. And suddenly you can't hear the wrong lyrics anymore. You hear the right ones. Why? The sound waves didn't change. The song didn't change. Your brain's prediction changed. Your brain is constantly receiving noisy, incomplete, garbage data from your senses. To make sense of it, it uses a database of past experiences to guess what's happening. You don't see what's there. You see what you expect to see. This is why optical illusions work. This is why eyewitness testimony is unreliable. This is why people can look at the exact same event and see two completely different things. Their brains are running different prediction models. You are living in a controlled hallucination, a simulation generated by your brain, calibrated by your senses, but ultimately created by you. And this brings us to the final, most uncomfortable truth about perception. If reality is a construction, if color, sound, and touch are just internal labels, if we are blind to 99% of the universe, then what are we? We are not observers. We are creators. We create the red of the apple. We create the cold of the ice. We create the solidity of the table. The universe out there is a silent, colorless, odorless, tasteless ocean of energy and matter. It is a quantum soup of wave functions collapsing and expanding. It has no beauty. It has no ugliness. It just is. We bring the beauty. We bring the meaning. When you look at a sunset, the physics is just scattering photons, Rayleigh scattering, atmosphere filtering wavelengths, boring. But you don't see Rayleigh scattering. You see gold, pink, purple. You feel awe. You feel peace. That feeling, that color, that isn't in the sky. That is inside you. You are projecting that beauty onto the canvas of the universe. We are the entities that give the universe its qualities. Without us, without conscious observers, the universe would exist, but it would be meaningless. It would be a dark, silent play with no audience. So when I say you don't have five senses, I'm not trying to make you feel small. I'm trying to show you how powerful you are. You are a biological machine capable of taking a chaotic flood of electromagnetic radiation and turning it into a symphony. You take pressure waves and turn them into Mozart. You take chemical molecules and turn them into the taste of chocolate. You are the universe's way of experiencing itself. So, the next time someone tells you that humans have five senses, correct them. Tell them about proprioception, the sense that lets you know where you are in space. Tell them about equilibrioception, the sense that anchors you to the earth. Tell them about nociception, the guardian that protects you from harm. Tell them about the chemical senses that keep your blood from turning to acid. But then tell them the deeper truth. Tell them that senses are just tools. That reality is not what we see, but what we understand. That the table isn't solid, the apple isn't red, and the silence isn't empty. Tell them that we are walking through a sea of invisible forces, blind to almost everything, yet somehow, miraculously, building a picture of the world that works. Physics is the study of that blindness. It is the attempt to see past the dashboard, to look out the window, to understand the machinery behind the illusion. It is uncomfortable, it is disturbing, it breaks your intuition, but it is the only way to know what is actually real, because in the end, the dashboard is useful. But the truth is infinite. And if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, it means you're not satisfied with the dashboard anymore. It means you want to see the sky. Keep looking, keep asking, because the universe is far stranger and far more beautiful than your five senses will ever let you know. See you in the next one.